Hello and welcome back to A Splash of Paint, where it's time to rejoin our resident book expert and paint magazine columnist Henry Malt, who has been browsing the shelves of the SIA library for another inspirational read to help your creativity bloom. So today's book is The Acrylic Flower Painters A to Z by Lexi Sundale. Now Henry, tell me, why is it an A to Z? What makes it an A to Z?
Very largely because flower books tend to go from azalea to zinnia. Somebody had the bright idea of doing it, and you've got to classify flowers somehow, and you could do them by colour, you could do them by species, and before you know where you are, it's botanical.
Right.
But there are rather a lot of them, and the trope is beginning to get a little bit obvious.
So is this book an actual book and flick through? Is it a botanical book, or is it just how to paint a flower? Is it instructional as well as...
Getting towards the botanical, there's quite a lot of detail in the illustrations, but it's not, if you want to get technical about it, botanical illustration.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you want to paint an individual flower rather than a flower arrangement, then that's the one. And it makes use of the fact that with an opaque medium, you can do fine detail.
Yeah.
I think to work with it, you'd need a certain amount of experience previously, because it's not a detailed how to paint flowers.
Okay.
It's how to paint whatever it is, probably about 26 different...
The thing that really strikes to me, is that it's actually got this lovely sort of translucency effect, which for an opaque medium is quite difficult to achieve. Does it actually give you instructions on how to achieve this? Or is it more...
Not in huge detail. What you get, if we're looking at, take that page for example, I mean again there you've got a lot of transparency, which is done in fact by the use of white.
Yeah.
You can probably see from here that you get the finished result, you get the palette and the basic instructions, and they're really quite short. There are no step-by-steps.
Yeah.
And then some breakout details there. So for example here it's talking about dealing with highlights.
Which is the thing as an artist that really strikes me, even from the cover, this nice crisp white really makes these pictures look almost realistic, almost photographic.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a book that you would purchase to actually learn from scratch how to paint flowers.
No, I'm not. I think we'd have to say that you probably couldn't, because it's a finished result with notes.
Right.
But if you're already a flower painter and you want to do specific examples, then, well, it's an A to Z, and that's actually what you'd want.
So, to try and summarise this particular book, why would you buy this book? What's the reasons for an artist to buy it?
To develop specific flower painting skills.
Okay.
And actually now we've got the cover back, it says 40 popular flowers, so you get a good amount for your money.
Yeah, it's quite a chunky book. How many pages altogether is it?
Is it 128, that one?
It is, yeah.
It's about normal length for a full-size book. Now you do get a lot within the confines of how it's structured.
And does it also talk about materials as well? Or does it just go straight into the flowers?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a bit of materials.
I was going to say show me a book that doesn't talk about materials.
Yeah.
But it's again fairly basic, and as you see, you've got some basic shapes there.
This is quite impressive. I noticed this earlier on. It's got I suppose, like a sort of list of popular flower shapes, and it shows you how you could translate them into basic shapes, which is a very nice feature. So it's got a bit of instructional as well in there.
Oh yes, and but fairly quickly you're going to get into. In fact, we've got transparent colours.
Yeah, it talks about obviously colour mixing as well. So it's got a bit of the Bible thing to it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. So if you was to summarise this in a sentence or two, how would you do that?
A good book to develop your skills as a flower painter.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Emery. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks, Emery. So another great read, packed with detail and practical techniques for all those artists wanting to take their flower painting skills to the next level. Right, let's see what secret weapon versatile SIA professional artist David Hyde revealed when we asked him, what's in your box?
So, what's in my box? Well, in my paint box here, in this little gap where most people have a brush or two, I keep a little penknife. It's just an ordinary penknife. In fact, it's a penknife I picked up off the ground. I found it many years ago, and it's been with me painting ever since, and it lives in that little space in my box. It's not sharp, it's quite blunt, and it's very, very useful because it's got this short blade for lifting out, or scratching out rather, for scratching out. Now, scratching out is a technique most people who paint watercolour know, but there are a surprising number of people who are not quite sure how to make it work every time and why it works. The trick in scratching out is to get the paint to the correct consistency, because if it's too thin, you mark the paper and the paint flows back in, and instead of getting a light line scratched out, you get a dark line. So you want a paint that has that sticky look, which the gum arabic in the watercolour gives it. Now that sticky look means that there's not a lot of water in there to dilute the gum arabic, and therefore you can push that apart quite easily. And the ability to push it apart and it stay apart is what makes scratching out work. So I'm going to do just a little tree shape on here and show you how I use this knife. Okay, so I'm going to do it on the center here and just make a dark shape. It's invariably a dark shape because you're lifting out back to a white or a pre-colored piece of paper. And with that done, you don't dig it in, you just use it like a squeegee and just paint it or draw it with the tip of a knife. You can sort of just block a little bit of green back in that so it's not too skeletal looking. So I just put a little, no, that's too wet. Just put a little bit back in. But if the consistency of the paint is right, then it'll stay in its place. The gum arabic will hold it until it's dry, and you'll get that light line, that scratched out look against the dark.
Well, it's time for another break now, folks, but join us in part 3 when I'll be showing you how to put the final finishing touches to today's Parisian-themed Try Your Hand At project. See you soon.